Hey guys, what's going on? Paul here, back to first live stream in a long time now, and great to be joined by Big Pey today to cover kind of all the latest on Cardano. It's been a really nice, this was 24 hours, 7 days for price side, but there's a lot of other things going on. Midnight Airdrop, Atrium is coming this week, I think, or next week. Big Pey
Next
is going to
Tuesday.
go through next Tuesday. We have other applications, Flow launches anytime now, Fluid tokens bringing out new versions. So lots of different things to get through. Let us know in the comment section below or in the live chat what questions you have, anything you want to go through. Please do share it out as well. I think the more people who come in, the more questions we get, the better the conversation we can have. Let us know on the audio. And Big Pey, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on again, Paul. It's exciting to be here. I'm in the same boat. I haven't done a live stream for a while, but we've done many together. I mean, this is probably 4 or 5 or even 6, and we're still kicking it. 4 years later almost.
Yeah, it's been a long time now. It's been a crazy journey. And I think when you look at what's happening right now, there's still a long way to go in that. But I'm gonna bring up CoinMarketCap here in a minute just to get a look at the overall market. There's a lot going on in the US today or this week, I suppose, with different acts. The Clarity, which you were mentioning before we started talking, there's the Genius Act, and there's a few other big votes that will have an influence on crypto. We'll touch on that. We probably won't go too deep into any of the different topics because there's so much going on. The Midnight Airdrop, few bits of details around that, and kind of a few warnings for people just in terms of claiming. There's no official claim live yet, but we'll go through some of the process now in a few minutes. But what's your overall thoughts on where we're at right now?
Things are looking good. I remember back in 2020, there was kind of like a feeling among at least me, maybe other stake pool operators of like, I've spent all this time learning this software. What am I doing? This may never take off. There's almost like a bottom in sentiment, and it seems like we've had that at the beginning of this year. We had the run to $1.20, and then we went back down real low, and there's a lot of negativity on X, and everybody's arguing and fighting, and the same thing happened in 2020. So my sentiment's pretty positive. A lot of my big worries about crypto, moving forward, they were around regulation, specifically in the United States as a U.S. citizen, and a lot of those, really regulations that hindered innovation within America are starting to be lifted. They're saying that this week is crypto week in Congress, and I'm sure there's going to become rules that we don't like, but I'm also hoping that there's some really fair rules that do promote innovation in America. And price wise, Bitcoin's at 120,000. I mean, that's insane. The first time I saw Bitcoin was at $500, so that run is insane. ADA is sitting right at 80 cents, but this is how cycles normally go. Bitcoin runs, and I think the reason we haven't seen a big run yet for Cardano is because of Ethereum. It's still following that traditional cycle where Bitcoin runs and then ETH runs, but everybody's been kind of nervous about ETH. Is Solana going to come and take its cycle essentially? And I personally don't think it will. So it's a really exciting time with the development that's happened on Cardano as well. There wasn't any smart contracts in 2021 when we went to $3. There wasn't all of these developers that know how to develop, and we've built up a huge amount of knowledge, huge amount of infrastructure, and a huge amount of tooling, to really be prepared for the users that come in.
Yeah, I think things are getting a lot easier. And we were saying this kind of 12 months ago, the things were getting easier at that point. But even now, when you look at the different toolkits that are out there and how easy developers can get started to build on Cardano, I think that's huge. When you consider the scaling that's going to come in the form of layer 2s with Midgards. You also have Hydra, obviously different kind of use cases. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities out there. You touched on a few things there, but the cycle, I think it still really is following a lot of that. Bitcoin is at the forefront. Then you take some of the profits come out of that, flows into Ethereum, flows into other big market caps, and then flows into the rest of the market, and usually does a full cycle, comes back into Bitcoin. Then if we look at the overall market, and we're not going to stick too long on price, there's a lot of other topics that we want to cover coming into this. Let me bring up my screen. Actually, this is something I was looking at earlier, and then we'll go. So just when you say about what's going to happen with the US, and we'll do a full segment on that, maybe bringing a lot of clarity on what kind of tokens can go out there or what's allowed. When you look at this, blew me away when I looked at the stats on this the other day. This is on Solana, and the number of new tokens that are created every day. So this was yesterday. There was 53,000 new tokens created on Solana. I'm not sure how many of them are created on Pump Fun or variations of that. I would say a huge amount of it. 49,000 the day before. This is consistent volume of tokens. This isn't even transactions that are maybe real, maybe not. This is tokens being created, which is just, it's crazy to see. And I hope we see these kind of numbers go down on all chains in terms of new tokens being created when we get the clarification about what is legal, brings proper structures in around that, because we all know that 99.999% of these are just out for pump and dumps. And that's the same across a lot of chains. It's not just, I know a lot of them happen here, but it's not just there. Look at the overall market today. Obviously, really good to see what's going on and follows that cycle. Bitcoin has been doing very well. Ethereum flying, XRP, let's see the market cap pulling well away from Tether at the minute. BNB doing okay. Solana, USDC, obviously, Doge, Tron, and ADA up nearly 30% as well. So you see a lot of the big cap coins, there's funds flowing into them over the last week, which for us obviously is what we want to see. The overall market on the rise. Bitcoin, it still kind of blows my mind to see the numbers at these kind of levels. Like you, it was sub 1,000 when I first started looking at it. Obviously didn't take advantage of that like I should have, but it's crazy to see where things have gone. When it hit 20,000, remember in 2017, the top there, and people thought like that was a massive number at that point. And to think now we're 6x the top there, and it doesn't look like a top yet anyway. But where do you think we're going from here? Not just price, but the overall market with what's going on in the US and everything this week. Hopefully bringing clarity around lots of aspects of stablecoins. I think that's a big one as well in terms of reserves. There's always been questions about reserves behind stablecoins, what's actually there, if something happens, if there's a bank run or things like that. I think a lot of these bills will bring clarification on that. I know on Cardano, we're lucky to have coins like USDM, which uses the Charlie 3 Oracle, that you can always check what is there in the reserves or what has been minted or what can be minted. I'd love to see a standard like that across more stable coins, but what's your own thoughts?
You know, looking at what Bitcoin has done and ETH has done and the regulation change that's coming in the United States, I think, you know, good things are coming for crypto, especially if we see the interest rates start to be lowered. You know, I think that really, you know, if I remember back to the last cycle, and of course history doesn't exactly repeat itself, but I think it rhymes, right? You know, we had the big bill, you know, a couple bills come from, you know, around the COVID time where they printed, you know, anywhere from $2 to $3 trillion. And then interest rates were really low at the time. And that, you know, even with bad regulation, you know, caused crypto to absolutely skyrocket. You know, there was a law that was created back then in the bill that created all of this, you know, new money called, you know, is the infrastructure bill that required, you know, DeFi applications to report, you know, addresses, social security numbers, email addresses, even to the IRS for anyone that used their DeFi platform. And that's impossible, you know, because we all know that we're building trustless applications in which anyone can interact anywhere in the world, even without a front end, right? So, you know, we saw a big run like that without the rate or with bad regulation. So I think if we see, you know, interest rates slowly start to go down, we just had a big bill, you know, I forget what Trump's called it, Trump's big bill or something, you know, but I think it's around $3 to $4 trillion that's, you know, coming into the market from that bill. You know, that mixed with lower interest rates and better regulation, you know, it's not guaranteed, but I think that we're going up. especially when you mix in some of the things that we were talking about earlier with development. We started developing Atrium, and we'll get into it more later, 3 years ago. And we wasted money in the beginning, my own money. We wasted it trying to learn how to develop on Cardano because there wasn't Lucid Evolution, there wasn't Mesh, there wasn't Icon. It was still very early back then. Whereas now, you can come in, you can pick up and start developing on Cardano for much cheaper. And there also isn't kind of these big powerhouses that are charging significant amounts for development because a lot more people actually know how to develop. They don't have like kind of a corner on the market anymore. So, I think we're heading to a really good spot. And you mentioned USDM. There's a lot of talk right now of providing liquidity to USDM pairs and also USDA pairs. And I think that would really be huge. I think a lot of these investors are looking at crypto as this new class of investment. And they have check boxes. What's the stable coin liquidity? Is there a major stable coin, etc.? And I think they're going to start to kind of go down this list, and Cardano is pretty high up on that list. And if we have the Treasury providing liquidity, I think that's going to spell significant things for Cardano.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of just to go back on what you're touching on there with, you see here how involved to see a US president pushing so hard for passing some of these acts. Obviously, Monday didn't go to plan in terms of what crypto was looking for, things to be passed straight away. And then there was a meeting late on, was that Monday or Tuesday night, maybe, bringing in people to try and basically force it through. Now, how interested Donald Trump really is in what crypto can do versus what it can do for his own pockets or things like that, I'm not sure. But for us that's involved, it's obviously good to have someone like that pushing. I did have better expectations before he went in, but then when the meme coin started to drop, it did make me reconsider what I was thinking at the time. But in terms, someone else was asking, can we get a bull run at this stage? This is, I don't know how big this comes up here. I was looking this morning just at trends for altcoins on Google, slight uptick, and you see the Bitcoin dominance starting to fall. Let's see if we can actually fall below the 62 here. Then we'll look and see. Again, this follows the flows of the market where you have all the money going into Bitcoin. Then it starts to flow into other coins. Again, Bitcoin gets a run. Money flows back into altcoins. So it could easily bounce here and back up to Bitcoin again. You can see it's setting new highs each time. But if it falls below here, it could be very good for altcoins going forward. Let me see. There was a question on wallets there for a second. And just to touch on it, could you give an update on the current best Cardano wallet? It's kind of hard to pick the best wallet on Cardano, I think, because I've been in it so long at this stage. Eternal is still my primary wallet. The V2 that came out of Eternal definitely makes it a lot easier for new users coming in. Lace, also a really good wallet. You have Tokyo, Giro, what else? Begin have been doing a lot lately as well. Daedalus, personally, I haven't used Daedalus in a few years now. It just got too hard to open if you weren't opening it every few days to sync it. It just became a bit of a problem. I do think it's still great for users to have a full node wallet themselves. And even for anyone, if something happens, anybody can spin up Daedalus, restore their wallet, and they have direct connection to the blockchain to submit their own transactions. You're not relying on a third party to actually submit them for you. But in terms of the best wallet, I would say look at some of the ones that are integrating with Bitcoin as well. So as far as I know, Lace, Begin, I didn't see it from Eternal, but I presume they will integrate too. But some of them kind of wallets would be the ones I would look at. Have you a preference, or we nearly have a problem with too many wallets, if I can say that on Cardano, because everybody tells you to go in a different direction?
Yeah. I use Eternal to this day. However, I would say it's not the best for brand new users. Like, it has some amazing power features in there, sending to a bunch of different wallets at the same time. They have a new update that came out with multi-sig, for example. But for, someone who's just, looking at their assets, I mean, Vesper is a good option. I think it's real clean. It's real simple. I even, Yoroi, it's like an old one, but they've been constantly shipping updates lately. And I think at this point I'd probably recommend Lace, Vesper, Yoroi, or if you're more of a power user and you kind of like things a little bit more complicated, Eternal.
Yeah, actually, Vesper, don't know why that one slipped my mind. That's a really, really easy to use wallet, especially on mobile. It's a really good option too. So yeah, it's kind of user preference. I would say some of the other ones, yes, if you're coming in from another chain, some of them other wallets there, like Vesper, like Begin, or Tokyo's only mobile as well. But any of them kind of ones, they have a similar feel to MetaMask or to some of the other wallets you might have used on other chains, which is good for people understanding it. All-time high of ADA, I honestly have no idea. This cycle is just kind of all over the place, and to me, it still depends on getting. I think we still need a lot of scalability in Cardano. We need to see more users on the chain. So for me, I don't know. I don't know if you want to comment on a. I'm always wary of price predictions. No price prediction from Big Pey.
Am I here? I think I lagged out for a second.
Oh, I think it flashed there. Yeah, it should be back now.
Okay, I'm back. In the last cycle, I used to dream of $1. I was like, if it went to $1, that'd be insane. And we went to 3. So it's hard for me to make price predictions. I can usually tell when we're near the top, but I never know where it's going to go. And it usually goes quick, but it takes some time. If I remember in the last cycle, in February, it went from like, January, February time, it went from 30 cents to, over $1.20 with the Coinbase listing. And, it took some more time, for it to actually end up reaching that all-time high. Last cycle, we really had 2 tops. It topped at 240, and then it went all the way down to $1. And then it went all the way back up again to 3, maybe 310 even before it topped. So, I mean, even at $3, I mean, we're doing pretty well. Even at 80 cents, we're doing all right here. I mean, we're the 10th largest blockchain in the entire world. Of course, we would like to see crazy highs, but crypto is entering this period of time where it's becoming actually a part of the traditional financial system. And I think what's going to come with that is, slower kind of moves up. Maybe this is the last cycle, but it wouldn't really surprise me if we saw $4 to $6. But again, my target last time was like $1.50 or something, so I'm bad at the price predictions, if I'm honest with you guys.
Yeah, look, I think they're definitely possible. And what I would say to people is if you're betting on anyone giving you the all-time high so you can take profits, don't. Wherever you think it's going to go, start setting your take profits a lot lower and do it in 5% of your portfolio. You sell off at a whatever percent. If it goes up another 20 cent, 30 cent, or maybe you do it in dollar increments, take another 5% off. And to me, that's always the best way because you're never going to time the top or the bottom. So DCA in and out of the market is always the best strategy, I think. Hey, Josh, what's up? Thanks for joining in. We'll definitely have to hook up for a stream now very soon too. I'm going to take these last 2 comments and then we'll see what our topics were. Cardano card. This is coming from Emergo. So there was, do I have the tweet actually? There was, for anyone that didn't hear, there was a card announced by Emergo or in partnership with Emergo. This one here, actually. So there was 2 of them announced that I think are interesting. So Midnight, Ian Kane from Midnight showed a video here of a Midnight card where you could top it up with crypto and you're able to spend it in shops, which I think is a great way to have it. Or to me, not even needing a card at this stage. I know I never bring a wallet anywhere. It's just my phone and I tap my phone. So being able to connect will be great. And then there's Cardano card by Emergo. One thing the 2 of them mentioned was they both talked about collateralized spending. So where you can use your ADA to take out a loan and then in fiat or in stable coins and you spend the stable coins. That's a really interesting aspect for me because won't get into tax advice or anything like that, but in different countries, there's different advantages to not selling your crypto, but using it as collateral. So that's what I would love to see is options like that, where you could use what you have as collateral to take the loan, to spend that, and then whatever way you work with paying it back. But there's lots of things you can do. Now, when you read the fine print, someone posted it here about the Cardano card. Was it the Giro team? There's a lot of, where's all the comments on it? Sorry. Yeah, so Giro posted on it. Let me go in. That in the fine print, I can't see it now. I'm not getting the comments. But in the fine print, basically, the card, it seems like more of an idea right now rather than something that's set in stone. Where is it gone? I'll look it up after and I can share it again. It's in the comment thread here somewhere. But Giro Wallet have a card coming very soon too. There's also Tokyo Pay have a card coming, Begin on this, another wallet. Talked about having a card. So look, having the options is great for us as the consumers. Whichever one offers us the best features, the best cashback, or whatever incentives, then that's good for us. But Big Pey, any thoughts?
Yeah, you know, the way taxes are handled here in the United States, you know, again, I'm not a tax advisor, but to me, you know, spending my crypto on daily transactions creates a tax nightmare. And I think it's very important that we kind of minimize, you know, the stress that we have in life. And it's like if you're buying a cup of coffee every day for $4 with ADA, every single one of those is a taxable transaction. And to me, I think that that's like really complicated. You know, I, you know, it's classic in crypto where they announce something like this that doesn't really even exist yet. They get a bunch of praise, everybody's excited for it, but it's probably going to take, you know, 6 months to a year, you know, if we're lucky to ever see something like this live in action. You know, if you're making a crypto card, here's my advice for you. I believe the meta is having credit, right? You know, in various jurisdictions. So, you know, let's say I get a line of credit for $5,000 or $10,000, right? What I would like to see is cash back in ADA or in Bitcoin. I don't want to take my ADA and spend my ADA on a daily basis because I'm just creating tax liability more for my accountant, a greater reason for him to charge me more to submit my taxes. And I don't want to spend crypto in the first place. Like the way that the system is set up is, you know, in my eyes, cryptos are commodities. Like you're not, you know, swiping a gold credit card where you're taking little ounces of gold, you know, out of your gold portfolio. So what I would like to see, and I think that this is the meta moving forward based on the traditional financial system, is a card in which you have credit that gives you cash back straight up in crypto. So as soon as you swipe that card, you get 4% back in ADA, and it's making that ADA buy on a daily basis. And what's, you know, kind of hidden, you know, this is kind of a bit doomer. I'm sorry for being a downer to everybody, but you know, the way that they make their money is the transaction fees, right? They're selling the crypto, and then, you know, they're doing a pretty big spread on that. You know, whereas if you just sold your ADA once, that's only one taxable event, and then loaded up a debit card, then you have the same thing, you know? So I think that this kind of notion of like, oh, swiping a crypto credit card, that's like kind of when you're new to crypto, that sounds cool and exciting. But once you kind of get it more into the weeds, to me, it sounds like an absolute tax nightmare. And I would rather just spend the dollars from my daily currency and use these assets as utility tokens or investments.
Yeah, the tax is the big reason for like that, where I generally cash out to my bank and then use it from there because it's one transaction and it's a lot easier than having 100 transactions or whatever it is in the account. This here was, I was going to say this and then I seen the comment was, desperately need Cardano DeFi with self-paying loans. Also, is the airdrop today? No, the Midnight Airdrop isn't today, but people are actively talking about spreading links for claim portals. There is no claim portal live yet. We'll get on to Midnight now in a minute, but just to keep putting that out there, that don't connect your wallets to any portal that's out there today. So the self-paying loans is something I think when you have something like ADA that gives staking rewards, that's when self-paying loans get very interesting. Is that, and this is what I'm hoping some of these cards actually bring into play, is they take your ADA as collateral for a loan, and then the staking rewards can help pay off the loan that you've taken out. So there's a few different mechanisms. I think we're kind of going too long into this already, but that's definitely an aspect that I would like to see. I know one of the biggest failures on Cardano now, Meld, talked about self-repaying loans, and that was a big aspect of some of their initial talk anyway, of something that really got me interested in what could be done there, but we won't go into that. For anyone following that, actually, there's new accounts, Meldgate, that are investigating what happened, and there's different processes happening there. Josh, I don't know if he's still here, done a good video on it there maybe last week. If you guys want to check that out, and I'll start following it a bit more. Well, let's look what was on our agenda, but do keep the questions coming in here, and we will cover as much as we can here. What was next? Midnight, maybe, because there's questions, and then I'm going to come back to you for Atrium and what's coming next with that, with the launch, with the airdrop, and what people will be able to do with it. So Midnight, I'm going to presume most people have heard about Midnight at this point. And the airdrop is happening. Does it give me the list of chains? So if you held $100 equivalent in any of these tokens, ADA, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, BNB, AVAX, or BAT at, does it give, was it the beginning of June? Or when was the snapshot? I can't remember.
Yeah, I wanna say it was the beginning of last month, maybe like the 11th off of the top of my head, but I would definitely verify that if you're interested in getting it, the exact date.
Yeah, so something in around that. Obviously, look it up yourselves. But if you have over $100 in your wallet, then your wallet would have qualified for this. There's 3 different stages of it. So it'll be the Glacier airdrop is where you can come in and claim. So there is 60 days that you have to claim from the start date. So there's no start date yet, and there will be 60 days. So there's no major rush to go in the first day that you see the site going live. Always verify it. I'll have a video out. I'm sure Peyton will have a video out. There'll be multiple ones out there to show you how to do it. Follow the official accounts as well, and nobody will ever DM you a link to the official portal. It's just not going to happen. So you have the 60 days to claim. So what happens is you go in, you claim on the portal, you put in your origination address, your destination address, and again, we'll have video tutorials, but you have the 60 days to claim. Anything then that doesn't claim, there are other phases then where the people who have claimed initially might be able to get some of it. People who didn't claim then can come back in the lost and found stage, but anyone really interested will claim in the first 60 days. And when you do claim, is the thaw is over here. So after you claim, then there will be a 90-day, or actually it's more than a 90. There's a full year of when you're going to get the tokens gradually. So the first thaw, which is the first 25% of the tokens you get in the airdrop, you will get, I think it's randomly, is it? Did I see that somewhere? Somewhere between the first and the 90th day. Is there a random drop here? The first thaw, yeah, so falls randomly between the days of 1 and 90, and then subsequent thaws following every 90 days. So you get 25% every 90 days roughly for a year, which I think helps with less sell pressure on the token or anything like that. So have I missed anything in trying to keep it high level there?
No, I don't think so. I would just stress again, people needing to be very careful here. I get a lot of questions about the dataless wallet, because it's a full node wallet, you won't be able to claim in dataless. However, that doesn't mean that you're not eligible. And, people like to try to use these events to steal from people, to scam people, especially, I posted a video on this and it got a lot of views. So there's a lot of interest in this. So scammers are, essentially going to copy this website. It's going to look the exact same, and they're going to try to get you to connect your wallet, or they're going to try to get you to type in your mnemonic phrase. So, when you're claiming this airdrop, you need to be very careful to make sure you're following the official links, from the official parties. As Paul mentioned, we'll have videos on this with the official links, but just be very careful and stay vigilant. Kind of the rumor right now is it's going to start the first week of August, but until you see, multiple people that you trust, all kind of saying this around the same time, and verify your links, just make sure you're very careful, because you don't want your hard work to, just go away because of one airdrop.
Yeah, and like I say there, 60 days to claim. And it doesn't matter if you claim on day 1 or day 60. I'll probably be somewhere in the first 10 days I'll be making my claim. So there's lots of time for it. It's not something you have to rush in to get. So you have lots of time to double check addresses and everything like that. So Marcos says, so I know somewhat about Midnight, but what would you say would be the largest use case for it? And maybe one of the first basic use cases. I like the concept of Midnight in terms of where you can have your private transactions or your public transactions. So what that basically means is it can be private. Like you have chains like Monero, which has some hugely positive things in that it's completely anonymous. Anybody can do whatever they want. No one can see your account balances or anything like that, which is good and bad. We obviously know what it can be used for then as well as that. But I like the idea of being anonymous. So use case right now, I use Cardano or any public blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, any of the other ones to pay a vendor. When I pay the vendor, so they send me an address to send them funds. When I send them the funds, then they see what address that came from. So what that means then is they can then look at that address, see what balance is in it. So straight away, they know what's in your bank account, or they can then, depending on what they want to do, they can trace back other addresses and things like that. So it's like every time you pay at the shop, you go in with your credit card and you pay, and then straight away the person behind the counter sees what's in your bank account. So it's not something you want to do. It's not, again, it's not like you're hiding things, but why should you have to show all of that straight away? There is cases though where you can reveal the key. So you can reveal, I'm not sure the full mechanism yet, but say there's audits or IRS or something like that, an entity that needs to see all your history, then you can reveal the key and then they can see the whole transaction history and everything like that. So it's not a chain where anyone will be doing things that are illegal or trying to money launder or anything like that, because you can always unlock the transactions. But I think having a privacy first for the public is a good aspect. But Peyton, thoughts?
I mean, to me, it's the easiest sell like in the entire world, right? Like it's nobody wants somebody else to know what they have in their bank account. A lot of people don't want to say, "Oh, how much even I make a year," let alone all of my investments, all of my transactions, how many times I order DoorDash or something, that you want to keep private. So I think that it's going to be a really easy sell. And if you look at kind of the nuances, the reason Monero really never took off, even though everyone wants privacy, is the worry of money laundering, as you mentioned, or the, worry of, kind of people using it to, purchase, or using it for illicit activities. So I think that, the fact that another really interesting part, like I think the new meta here is they're airdropping 100% of the entire supply. There was no, VC investment, so you're not going to have these big investors or whales dumping on you. Really, I think it's, the cycle that we're heading into is about network effect. It's about how many users are using the chain. And, I think that they really have done a good job with the tokenomics that they had. And, the use case of privacy is such an easy sell to a regular person because they're going to understand it right off the bat of, yeah, of course I don't want to show everyone everything I've ever done. Right. So, an interesting thing that we haven't mentioned is that scavenger mine phase as well. So whoever, the 60 days to claim is there. And then whoever doesn't claim during that, there's going to be another phase where you can essentially run something in your browser that kind of mines the token, right? And then there's going to be a lost and found phase, and that allocation is more of the tokens that haven't gone out, and they're going to go to the users that have claimed. So, there is a 50% allocation of Midnight specifically to ADA holders, and that number could even be greater than 50%, given that a lot of the Bitcoin holders don't claim it, or a lot of the ETH holders don't claim it. And, one thing that's exciting that I've seen is really the traction that's coming with Midnight. We saw the Brave partnership. I post a video, everybody's kind of excited about Midnight. And one thing that Cardano's needed, I think, is exciting projects that have, assets on the chain that bring in new users that are doing that outreach. And it seems like Midnight is, going to be one of the gold standards for, onboarding new users and showing people how a launch is done.
Yeah, I think it brings a lot of attention. Seen a tweet actually from Patrick from Endmaker yesterday saying about one of the banking sectors. I can't remember the name now, but they were looking at Cardano because of Midnight. They weren't looking at Cardano because of any of the volume on the projects that we have, but because they were getting interest from people asking about Midnight who want to be able to claim Midnight, the Night token. And to do that, you have to do it on the Cardano blockchain. So it's bringing interest like that. The way I look at it is, I don't think this is going to happen, but even if people got their airdrop and they sold all the funds straight away as soon as they get it, then they have assets or they have free funds there that what are they going to do? They can look around and see what other projects are there on Cardano, what other ones look like they could be able to do something. Also, for getting listed on different exchanges, as the Night token will be a Cardano native asset, that means that more exchanges are going to support Cardano native assets, because if they're going to list Night, then they can start listing other Cardano tokens then as well if they start hitting certain volume thresholds. Because look, a lot of talk about centralized exchanges is, I see this all the time, why don't exchanges list more Cardano native tokens? But if you look at TapTool's brilliant site and you look at the volumes of trading on Cardano, it's just not near what is going to interest the centralized exchange just yet, because we're looking at it from the aspect is that it will help us or help the projects on Cardano by being listed there. But a centralized exchange is a business. They're looking, what are you going to bring to them? And what they want is trading volume that's going to earn them fees. So that's what we have to show them on Cardano first, that yes, these projects, SNEC at times has had really good volume and they have been getting some listings, which is great. But that's because exchanges know that they're going to get something from listing tokens. So that's what we need to show them. And there's what Big Pey was saying there, about 50% of the allocation goes to ADA holders, 20% to Bitcoin, which I would say lots of that 20% maybe won't be claimed, and 30% split then across all the other chains. So there will be lots that goes into the scavenger or into the lost and found. So keeping up with this, there will be lots of other opportunities for projects to get involved with this too.
Yeah, one last note as well is, because you can't claim all of it at once, these people have to keep coming back to Cardano, right? So it's like, as Cardano is doing new cool things, you have all these new users that are at least coming back over and over again for a year, so it's a very nice, I think, with, if the bull market continues, it's, going to be a very nice timing, I think.
Yeah. And let me see, what else do we have here? I agree on that. And look, in terms of usage of the Cardano blockchain, it's going to help with all the metrics there for people to look at metrics like active users and transactions and things like that, because all the claims will be happening. There'll be more users coming in, creating wallets. So overall, even outside of anything else, the token airdrop happening through Cardano is a really big plus for Midnight, as well as whatever else it can bring and whatever collaboration between different projects that we'll see what happens there. Crypto Chiropractor says Flow mainnet today. Yeah, we mentioned that at the start, and I'm going to look in a minute. I think anytime now it should be going live on mainnet. The testnet looked good. I did have a play around with it. So he says we all used Levy back in the day. So this is Levy but pooled, liquidity and 100% protocol revenue going to stakers. Yeah, we covered it at the beginning, and we're going to take a quick look in a few minutes as well. But basically, for anyone who's been around, to me, it looks like LenFi. We're still not sure if LenFi V2 is ever going to come back, or V3. There's been lots of work trying to get it back online, but I haven't seen confirmation yet officially that we will have it back. But Flow looks to be trying to fill that void there. Levy Finance as well are bringing out their V3 probably in the next few weeks. So there's a lot coming on the lending and borrowing side. So it opens up opportunities for users. But LenFi is like, or LenFi Flow is like LenFi V2 from back last year, where it is pool lending, but it is isolated pools. So it's not like liquid finance where you can use different collaterals against any of the different pools, whatever one's accepted. With Flow, there are set pairs. So you would have an ADA Flow pool. So in that, you just use ADA and Flow. And then I think SNEC is another one they're going to have. Bodega. There's a partnership there, so they're going to have that and a few other tokens, but we'll look at that in a few minutes. Do you want to give a mention on Atrium? That's coming up in the next few days as well. And then while you're talking about that, I'll have a look and see if Flow has gone live and bring up some of the links.
Yeah, definitely. And there is one thing I wanted to mention about the the bills too before I get into Atrium. This is kind of, really unique. If you look at the space, there's like a lot of narratives that are flowing around. And I think the worry right now is that decentralization doesn't matter, right? You look at Solana, you see all of the transactions that are happening on Solana, and people are like, oh, well, that's the move. And we essentially need these, high throughput blockchains that can handle all of these transactions. But then in that, they sacrifice decentralization. Whereas there's this bill that's going through the Congress today, and it may get accepted, it may not. I'm not an oracle. It looks like it will, but it's in the Clarity Act. They outline different ways that blockchains can actually be considered decentralized, and some of those ways would actually mark Solana, in my opinion, to not be decentralized, whereas it would mark Cardano as decentralized. They look at things like these, decision makers, who's making the decisions. And, we've had a lot of problems with governance. We've had a lot of negativity and kind of people arguing with each other, but this is a positive that can come from that. They look at how much running a node actually costs. Can a regular person run a node? Whereas with Solana, I can't afford to run a node, right? Nobody can really afford to run a node unless you're a large institution, with Solana. And, XRP also wouldn't be considered decentralized as well. Whereas with Cardano, the different things that they've outlined, it seriously looks like, Bitcoin, Cardano, and Ethereum are going to be the most mature blockchains when it comes to decentralization. And it's not just because of the governance model or proof of stake, it's also based on who holds what. If you remember in the last cycle, when you compared Cardano and the holdings to a bunch of different other chains at the same time, Cardano really stood out among all of those chains because of how many different regular people actually held the token and how little, large amounts were held by a few different wallets, right? So, we've had this worry of maybe, crypto's heading towards this centralized, VC chain or bank chain kind of direction. Whereas this Clarity Act could actually, give more power to chains that have, true decentralization, which is, exciting for me to see. There could be some other, BS that's included in this bill that I don't like. I'm not kind of co-signing this bill by any means because that's how the U.S. government works. They fit as much stuff as they can into these bills, and there could be, things, little lines in here that's going to cause, businesses or individuals problems. But it was nice to see that they are trying to provide some clarity around decentralization, and our lawmakers actually care about that. What do you think about that, Paul? And then I'll get into Atrium.
Yeah, look, I think, like you say at the end there, that there's going to be stuff in the bill that isn't good. I don't know the specifics of the whole ins and outs of it either. I do like this, that when you look at it, the maturity label and short description, that Cardano does fare very well when you look at things like this. When you start comparing chains on decentralization, how long they've been around, running nodes, can anybody do it? Can anyone get involved? These are the types of metrics that Cardano performs very well at. So seeing kind of bills coming in around this, or I suppose legitimacy coming in around this, rather than just how fast is it, how many transactions are real or not real, and getting the conversation around things like this, to me, is great. And I'm sure these will have to be refined over time. I was just trying to look through there. I'm not sure what the timeline is on votes, or do you now, me being in Ireland, I don't understand the politics there or what it means today. Is this it final today, that if it gets approved today, that's it, it becomes, I suppose, legal, or it gets signed in then by Trump after that? Actually, I don't even know the full process in Ireland, so politics is something I don't get too heavily into.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say, don't worry, Paul. A lot of American citizens don't really know how the system works either. So from my understanding, they have to essentially vote to say, yes, we are going to talk about this. And I think that that's kind of what's passed. And then the Congress has to sign it. And then after the Congress, it goes to the Senate. And then sometimes I'm pretty sure it also goes back to the Congress again. And then if they, agree, depending on where it started, it kind of goes back after the changes. And then it goes to the president. And then it's actually signed into law. So I think this is going to take, maybe even another week before it's fully like, good to go. But it is very, the Congress and the Senate right now are Republican, denominated, right? And Trump is really pushing this heavy. The Republicans have really been pushing this heavy. So there's no guarantee that this passes, but it's looking likely, based on what we've seen. However, in the same way Cardano governance has taken a while and been pushed back, right? I think the same thing could happen here. People, they always want to get what they need for their constituents, or their donators, or whoever's lobbying for them. So we'll see how this goes, but it is nice to see that we are actually getting some clarity. It's literally called the Clarity Act. So
Yeah, it looks like there's live discussions going on. I'm not going to get into them now, but maybe in the next few days we can give an update when we see how it all processes out, and maybe I will learn a bit more on US politics and the processes there. But I think you're going to bring up your own screen while you're getting that. I'm just going to see what the last few questions are here. Does Sol still have fake volume? Yeah, I think, as far as I know, I think they do still count consensus transactions and failed transactions. I don't know if the failure rate is as high as it used to be. It's not something I follow too closely, to be honest. We did show at the beginning of this the 50, 60,000 new tokens that are created daily on Solana. So I would imagine that definitely there's a lot of fake stuff happening there too. Are we buying the Flow mainnet launch? To be honest, I'm more interested in having the protocol out there and having a usable protocol. I do like the aspect where fees earned on the protocol go back to holders, like we're seeing with the likes of Strike Finance. And I don't know, do Bodega do it as well? But I do like that we're seeing some dApps turning to that, where you're more incentivized to be a part of the protocol, or by holding tokens, you actually earn from the protocol doing well. This was kind of like dividends, but you don't want to be classed as dividends because that gives different legal routes. Can't believe no one mentions Tron. Tron is a very fast, I was going to say blockchain, but it's borderline whether it's a blockchain or a database. It is very centralized, but yes, it's fast. They do a lot of volume on stable coins because they do it basically free, or free in some cases, as far as I know, but it's not a chain I ever use. Midnight, don't know if this is a real Midnight account or if it's one of the ones that sends you an address. I'll have to check that later. If it is, welcome Midnight. We covered a few things there earlier on the airdrop and giving people warnings to make sure and pay attention to the official accounts for the links for the airdrop and claim process and everything like that. But looking forward to it. So let's see, can I bring up your screen here now? Okay. So the stage is all yours.
Good to see you in here, Midnight. But just to get into Atrium, first and foremost, we're launching next Tuesday. It'll be around, I would say, 12 EST, give or take an hour. And what we're launching is our first smart contract. We've been building Atrium for over 2.5 years now. I think the first time we ever talked about it was over 3 years ago. And what we've been building Atrium for is the millions of users that I believe are going to come into Cardano over the next couple of years. It's an app that's meant to be accessible. It's an app that's meant to, gamify the Cardano experience and promote education, and then also promote all of the good projects that are on Cardano. And, first and foremost, for the new users, this is going to serve as an onboarding tool. So when somebody asks you, what is crypto? You can just tell them, go to atrium.io. What is Cardano? You can tell them to go to atrium.io. And we have these different education paths with over 26 motion graphic videos that teach you, what is Cardano? And they're quick. They're 3 minutes long, 2 minutes long. They're quick. They're animated. We have, text guides for all of this. So when somebody asks you, what is Cardano? You just say, go to Atrium. They'll tell you. They've got 26 motion graphic videos to kind of guide you along that experience. But on top of that, Atrium is going to serve as a dashboard. So we're launching this next Tuesday as well, the education portal, the dashboard. And what you can do is you can connect your existing wallet. So I'm connecting my existing wallet here, and you're going to see the dashboard pop up, and the education actually lives within the dashboard on Atrium. So if you don't know what staking is, you can click the little help icon that you're going to see here in a moment, that shows you, pop up with a video. Here's how you stake. Here's how you choose a stake pool. But we have this dashboard here. We have wallet features. You can send and receive various assets in here. You can view your tokens, transactions. We have a coin market cap style list as well. You can see, okay, Snake's doing well, or Sneck's doing well, Hosky's doing well right now. But where Atrium really starts to set itself apart is not only is it this onboarding tool, this education portal, and with wallet features, we've also built multiple bespoke smart contracts that we're going to launch over the next few months. And we've been building for so long that we have the ability to kind of build up momentum and kind of keep doing more with each launch. And what we're launching next Tuesday is Atrium Profiles. And what it allows you to do is come in. So this is a smart contract called STOA underlining this. And STOA allows you to mint these profiles. So we can go in here. This is, on mainnet right now. So we can do one. We'll do, Cardano with Paul. And then now that we've got this in, it's checking the smart contract. It's saying, okay, this one hasn't been minted before. And then you can send and receive to these as well. So you'll be able to send ADA or NFTs to Big Pey. You can also get referrals. So let's say Paul here, he gets a lot of people to mint profiles. 20% of the ADA that it costs to mint these profiles is going to go directly to Paul for onboarding new users to the platform and getting them to mint profiles. So there's incentives baked in, directly for people that are onboarding. So we're going to move forward here and then pick one of these profiles. Which one stands out to you, Paul?
What's the guy in the top right?
Top right?
A bit small on my screen, yeah.
That's the right one, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So now we're going to go through the, Atrium's constructing, this transaction in the back end right now. And we're going to go ahead and sign this transaction. I got a little Eternal pop up here, and we've tried to make this pretty and fun and gamify it and bring something that's new and unique and exciting to Cardano that isn't complicated for new users. Because while you and I want lending platforms, new users, it's going to take them time to get there. And we want to use Atrium to get them there, really. At random for your NFT. And where it gets even more exciting is we can click go to profile here, and it takes a second for that image to render in the background. But we have a whole leveling system, and we've connected Twitter and Discord directly to this profile. So you get XP as soon as you connect your Twitter, as soon as you connect your Discord, you get XP that levels up your profile, that gives you new backgrounds, new titles, new unlocks, and new avatars. You scroll down here and you can see the various challenges. Say GM in the Discord, claim a daily reward on Atrium, follow somebody on Twitter, review this podcast. And, what we'll do right now. So when Atrium launches next Tuesday on mainnet, if you type in the code Cardano with Paul, you'll get a boost of XP as soon as it launches. And the reason I'm doing that, the reason we have this tool is to promote engagement within the ecosystem. The people mentioned Flow launch today. If they came to us and say, hey, we're launching, they could put a code in their site to drive users directly there. So if you guys type in with Cardano with Paul on your profile for mainnet launch, you'll be able to get XP. That'll show up in this tab. You can click redeem code right here. There'll be some other codes that we're sprinkling around as well in our Twitter spaces and other podcasts. And this is only the first smart contract. The second smart contract allows you to delegate to over 100 different stake pools at the same time. This is a test basket here. But what you do is you give up about 15% of your ADA rewards. You still get 85% of them. Your ADA is then split among 50 different stake pool operators at the same time. And then you get ATMA tokens on top of your ADA rewards for using diffusion. So you're supporting, 50 different small businesses at the same time. You're getting additional Cardano native token as well. And then, your ADA is being, supporting decentralization. And then that token that you get, the ATMA token, is actually a DAO, in the real world. So you become a member of a DAO that has that token. So you're going to be able to vote on the various pools that are in the basket. You'll be able to vote for, where the fees go as well. So, you essentially get ownership, you not ownership, but you become a member of the DAO, for having that token. And what ties this entire ecosystem together? So this is launching next month on the 13th after Rare Evo. We'll be at Rare Evo. Come find us if you want to learn more. And then, what really ties this all together? So you're getting the ATMA tokens from Diffusion or the airdrop that we've done. But what you can also get is you take that ATMA token and you use that to elevate your favorite profiles or brands within the Cardano ecosystem. So I take the ATMA token, I say, okay, Paul has provided me a lot of great educational content. I'm going to take that ATMA token, I'm going to stake it, I'm going to elevate Paul's profile within Atrium to push him higher up in the list. So Atrium is going to serve as an ecosystem map for content creators, for lending platforms, for DEXs, for builders, because everyone is going to be elevated within Atrium using that ATMA token. And what we're calling that is proof of influence. And that's going to be our third launch. And that's going to be about 3 to 4 months from now. So again, the first launch is next Tuesday. We're launching profiles, then staking baskets next month, and then proof of influence likely about 3 to 4 months away from now. And you'll be able to use that ATMA token to elevate profiles. And, we're following kind of, I think Midnight and, they're giving out all of the tokens, for contributing to the platform. And we're doing the same thing. The ATMA token, there is no VC. There is no private sale. There is no private investor. You get the token from contributing to the DAO, from using the platform, right? So this is what we've been working on for the past 2.5 years, 3 years. And it really is to try to grow Cardano, is try to bring more engagement to the businesses that are on Cardano, the content creators, and also to make Cardano fun and pretty and accessible for brand new people and serve as that onboarding tool that drives users to all of these great projects that are already here today on Cardano.
Nice. I think that should give people a good overview. There was one question here was on the cost for profile, and then is that an ongoing cost, or is there renewals in it?
So the cost of the profile, it's hard to say because it's going to be around a certain price because it's going to be an ADA. What we're shooting for is around $25. Give or take $5 because the ADA price is constantly fluctuating right now, but they're going to be, in my opinion, very cheap. Other namespace NFTs or ENS, for example, they've cost quite a bit. There's, monthly subscriptions, whereas this, you pay that $25 once. There's no monthly fee. There's no service fee. And that's that. You actually own your profile.
Okay, that's good. But does the length, there's some naming profiles, it's like if I do a 2-digit one, it costs me more, or if I do a 10, it's cheaper, or are you a one price, or is there different prices?
It's one price for all. So standard price. If you get in there and you get the letter, B, that's yours, $25. And you better get there on Tuesday because I imagine that'll go quick.
I think the letter A would be more popular for Cardano. Well, yeah, I like that. Sometimes you do see where it's huge prices for the smaller names. And if people are going to be sending to addresses, being able to get them shorter names is a really nice aspect to be able to get. So within Atrium, you can send funds to the profile NFTs. Will you be integrating with other wallets like Eternal or Lace? We talked about a lot of wallets earlier on. Will I be able to do it through them?
We would like to. The way that we've looked at it is we kind of have to prove ourselves first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we'll start to do that starting next week. We're going to have a lot of people come in and mint and reserve profiles. You can send and receive to both profiles and ADA handles already within Atrium. But I think once we get some numbers, we get a lot of new users, and we really reinvigorate the excitement around NFTs on Cardano, I think it'll be easy for us to, reach out to Lace or Eternal and say, hey, can you guys also integrate us? Because we have, 10,000 users, for example, that are all asking for this service. So on launch, we're not going to have any other wallet integrations, but, on the biz dev side, that's what we're going to be working on. And I think that, people using the platform is going to make that a lot easier for us.
Nice. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Once you've proven the model, you will have people interested. And if you can make it easy for the wallet providers to be able to look up the addresses or to look up the profile names, then that's a really easy onboarding. So I think you've kind of covered all aspects of it. What I'll do is I will leave the links to Atrium down below. Next Tuesday, then I will try and get a tutorial recorded of me going in and claiming my profile and doing a few things in around it. I say Tuesday or Wednesday. Sometimes I'm not just as good at getting the videos out that quick, but I will get it out next week and I'll have the links below. I think you said Cardano Paul gives XP or something there as well.
Yeah, Cardano with Paul. If you type in redeem code, you'll see it in the specials tab, and we'll also link back, to this podcast. So when we go live, all the users that are in Atrium are going to see, oh, well, I have to go watch this podcast to get this code, and we'll link to it directly in there. So yeah, Cardano with Paul, you'll get some XP directly in Atrium if you type that in.
Nice. Appreciate that. And the other one we're just gone over the hour now. So if anyone has questions or anything for the last few minutes, let us know. Solid, I recognize the icons with Cornucopias. That's one I need to catch up on soon. They did launch, if you bought one of the file nodes, probably, I don't know, was it a year ago now or that? But they did launch that in the last week, where you can now run your node or run your server and your NFT is your license to do that. So make sure if you did buy one a while back that you follow up on that. Again, it's something that I will cover, probably do a tutorial on running it because I bought one back in the sale. So I will get that set up. Again, the next week or two, I'll get that one out. But I'm looking through here. Flow, I don't think they fully went live yet, did they? I see a video, it's coming. Yes, it's not live just yet, but we did mention it earlier. Actually, if I share my screen, it's probably easier while we're waiting to see if there's anything else. So this is another lending and borrowing protocol on Cardano. Mentioned it earlier on in the video. Levy Finance are also going to be launching their V3 in the next few weeks. Again, that one works slightly different, gives different opportunities. You also have Liquid Finance, which is kind of the long-standing, solid lending and borrowing protocol right now on Cardano. So it's great to see lots of different opportunities coming out. And when all of these are out, I'll probably do a comparison video to show the different ways that each of them work. I'm also in the middle of building lending and borrowing or an aggregator. So that should go live. We had been holding back on it until there was the likes of Flow, and we were waiting to see if LenFi, Levy Finance, Fluid tokens of another version coming out. So all of that will be built into it when it goes live, hopefully again within the next few weeks. But any closing thoughts, Big Pey, or anything that we didn't cover? I think we should get into.
You guys are going to be launching a lending aggregator.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I haven't got it open here. I've been building it the last while. Kind of went on pause the last few weeks, waiting to see if we get another protocol. Liquid Finance is fully integrated into it. And then I started integrating other dApps as well in terms of just reading your balances and reading if you've open trades and different things like that. So we'll eventually expand it out. It's going to be a lot more than it started out as a lending aggregator, but I think there's going to be a lot more to it eventually too. But next few weeks. I could launch it now, but it would just have Liquid Finance really and reading LenFi V1 trades, but there's not, or lending and borrowing, but there's not a huge amount happening there. So we're holding off until we can get another protocol in there.
Well, once you're ready, let's do another live stream. We do some news and then we go into it.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for that. Any closing comments, anything we haven't hit on here?
No, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Paul, for having me. It's always a pleasure, and it seems like we're heading into exciting times again on Cardano. So congrats everybody for sticking through the bear market, and I'm hoping for higher highs and more product launches.
Yeah, sounds good. Look, everyone that tuned in, actually, I did verify, checking in the background, this was the official Midnight account. So if you're interested in what's going on there, make sure and go over and subscribe there to see all the latest that they have. Everyone who tuned in, thanks very much for tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so. It helps more people see what the video is about. Share it out and let me know in the comments after this what type of things you would like to see in future live streams or dedicated videos. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk soon. Cheers, Big Pey.
Cheers.